Hey there, listeners. Jackson here. Just wanted to give you a heads up before we get into this episode. We recorded this at Studio 2 at Southern FM in Mentone, and there was a slight electrical problem going on when we recorded this, so you may or may not hear a slight little buzz occasionally. Depends. If you listen on speakers, you probably won't hear it. If you listen on earbuds, then you might hear it. So it's not a huge problem. Depends how great your ears are. Just to let you know that it's in there. Hopefully it doesn't taint your listening experience. It also leads into a discussion that we're going to have on a future episode. Thanks for listening.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Social Audio Think Tank. Josh here from Melbourne, Australia, and I'm here with Jackson. How you going, Jackson?
I'm going good, thanks, Josh.
Today's episode is called the Musicol-isode, so this will be for musicologists in the podcast world, and today I wanted to talk to Jackson about two things. Some ideas for securing decent or really good quality music for your show, and also just to talk about, are there any shows out there that you think use music really well or an intelligent way? And maybe without naming names, some shows or some styles of shows that maybe don't really put much imagination into their music and or very much money into their music. So I might let you have a riff first, because I know you had a bit to say about this. Being a community radio tech guy, you are involved with pumping out a lot of music to a lot of people, so I'll let you go first.
Sure. Well, my experience of podcast music has been that it's not used very well. A lot of the podcasts that I come across, they've clearly gone to Odesk or Fiverr or something like that, and they said, give me a podcast music bed, and it's this heavy pumping dance track, and it doesn't fit their content whatsoever. It just distracts from the podcast, I think. Which is why for me, when I'm making music for my podcast, although I have my style of music, which is I put on the music that I like, I try and make something new that at least fits the tone of the content in some way. And also because I don't want to have to pay someone else to put music on it. I know I've got sort of a vision of what I want it to be, and it's not a heavy pumping dance track.
Yeah, well, there's two things that I think are important. One is that both yourself and me are able to do something not a lot of people are, and that's to create far better than average quality music without actually having to get anyone to do it for us.
Yeah.
So that is kind of unfair to anyone who's listening who's thinking, well, I don't actually have that option. But the next thing that you said was a vision, which is kind of where I was hoping that question would lead us originally. What I don't like to hear is that people spend a fortune on microphones and gear, and they might go out and get themselves some good artwork. Some don't, but generally artwork comes before music in most podcasts' mind as to where you'll put investment. And then the music is just really, really bad in comparison to everything else about the show.
Yeah.
Like the music does sound like it was recorded on, you know, those little keyboards you get as a kid that have like 3 big buttons on the top and one shaped like a star.
Yeah.
Like it just sounds awful. And a lot of, I mean, it's okay, I guess, if your show has that kind of vibe, like super fun, kiddie or quirky, or it's meant to sound lame. Like some shows, I think, have music that they know is lame for the sake of maybe making the show a little bit funnier.
Yeah.
But you are right that there are a lot of shows out there now that are in the entrepreneurial space that have this wish-washy rubbish music that is just really painful to listen to.
Yeah.
And then these big radio but compressed like vocal tracks over the start, and that stuff generally puts me to sleep, and I'm sure it does put a lot of people to sleep, but that's just personal choice. But I've noticed that sound has proliferated through every show, regardless of whether the host has one opinion on something or something completely different, or even if the content covers something completely different. If your show is remotely serious, apparently you're meant to have a very narrow range of music within your show or people won't listen to it.
Yeah.
Even at the expense of personal taste, which I just think that's crap, and I would never do that. So I was just thinking, if people are thinking, wow, actually now I think about it, my music's not great, I got it because it was easy or it was cheap or it was accessible.
Yeah.
I'd like to go out and get music that maybe I like more or represents me better or maybe suits the genre better, because you are right, when there's certain shows and they've got that really heavy dubstep music, which I actually don't mind the sound of. It's just, it generally is so dense in sound that everything either side of it sounds incredibly thin in comparison.
Yeah.
And it can just be completely out of context. And it sounds super well produced because it's so easy to make that stuff at home on any modern recording program. I can see why people go for that kind of music, because it is easily accessible. But yeah, just to get on track with my own point, where do you think people can go to get music, or even to get that vision going? Do you think it's maybe a case of really sitting down and thinking about what you like, and then maybe getting as close to your personal taste and what maybe your audience would like, and finding something in the middle, even if it requires maybe doing, some research or even spending some money? Is music important enough to spend a decent amount of money on for your show?
I would say yes. I'd say my process in the past has been, if I've ever had to make music for someone else, what I would do is I'd go to premiumbeat.com and I'd get maybe 3 to 5 things that I thought would fit that sort of style. And then obviously, because I have the luxury of being able to make something new, I'd sort of use those as a template and an inspiration and make my own thing. But then I would say, yeah, just go to premiumbeat.com and just pick something that you think fits the tone of your show.
Yeah. Why do you think, though, and it's really getting to the nitty-gritty, why do you think that people feel that they can't have something that expresses them as music, that they have to actually have some preordained genre or style for a particular type of show? Like, where does that mindset come from?
Yeah, that's something we talked about in a previous episode, where it's just, you've got to put yourself in the show. And I don't get why. Well, I get why they have like the high energy stuff, and someone's clearly told them if you have high energy music, you're going to have an exciting show. But that's not really what podcasting is. You can't just inject that. You can't just force the high energy into it and the entertainment into it. You've got to put yourself into it, and it's whatever emotion you put into it.
Yeah. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. And for anyone out there that's wondering, is music that important? For all of my shows, I've changed the artwork before. I've started doing more interviews with people that have reasonably, decent reputation online compared to mine. And I've improved the content, I've improved the sound in most of my shows, as long as Skype is behaving itself.
Yeah.
The biggest increase in retained listeners and communication and just general vibe of my audience talking back to me across my shows was when I started putting my own music at the start.
Yeah.
Because I used to start a lot of my shows without any music, just get straight into the talking, because I thought, that's kind of the vibe that I want. I don't want to waste anyone's time. I started putting instrumental chunks of my own songs that were appropriate, which, again, I have the ability to do, so that kind of cuts a bit of a corner for me. But as soon as I did that, I even had emails and tweets from people saying, wow, that's really, really nice music. Yeah. And they were even more into it when they found out that I actually composed it myself. And for someone that can't compose it, actually compose music yourself, all you need to do is, once again, go to someone like Premium Beat, but pick something that's representative of you as much as you can, that's maybe not way out of the ballpark. Obviously, if your show's about rearing farm animals and you've got a really, really gutted, like, garbage recording of a Slayer song or something, that's not going to be a great matchup. But yeah, I actually don't think the quality of the actual recording is as important as the appropriateness to you as a person and to your show.
Yeah.
Because I know why a lot of people go for that, once again, that heavy dance music sound now. Because if you're getting cheap music, it's generally going to be made on the cheap.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to be made at home. The quality of a rock band recorded at home is nowhere near as good as the quality of electronic music recorded at home.
Yeah.
So I can see where that's coming from. Yeah. I don't like the mindset of thinking that podcasting has become something where certain genres have a set rule from second number 1 to when you end at exactly 35 minutes or whatever it happens to be. Like, music has fallen into the same trap as everything else. You need this mic and you can't swear and it needs to sound like this and you can't put your audience off from the first minute, even if it involves your personality. Yeah, I just think music is the first thing that lets people know this is the mood that the presenter wants me in for this show.
Yeah.
And, yeah. So that's getting maybe a little bit off the philosophical side and really into the nitty-gritty. Where would you go other than Premium Beat? Just say someone has no money. And that's, I mean, Social Audio Think Tank, we're trying to talk to people that aren't so much in the business podcasting world or at all, really, to more creative shows. Where would you go, or how would you search out music that might suit a podcast if you really just don't have the budget, but you have a lot of, maybe you have a vision for what you want as a sound, but you don't have the finance to maybe pay a band to record it? Where would you look to get music for your show if you didn't have the finance?
I'd say if you know of a particular song or something that you like, I've heard plenty of stories where people just approach the artist and say, I love your song, can I use it for my podcast? And I've heard plenty of stories where the artist just says, yeah, thanks for the compliment, why not? Sure.
Yeah. Would they be independent artists that you're talking about there?
Not always. Well, there's the bigger artists that I've heard of doing that have also been tied to bigger podcasts.
Obviously, if you have a massive amount of listenership already, then you probably might actually have the finance to get the music you want anyway, but obviously you've got a big bargaining chip. I'm maybe more talking to someone that's choosing music for the first time.
Yeah.
Like we're recording in a community radio station here in Australia today at Southern FM in Melbourne. One thing that I would do is, regardless where you are in the world, if you have some kind of government funded or education funded, like community radio or college radio, I would actually go and talk to the presenters of those shows and actually just ask them the question, within these two or three genres, who are the bands that really push to get played, and who's out there doing a lot of shows, and who's really creative, and who approaches you as the radio station with the most creative ideas? And there's maybe the bands that are going to be the most open to a new art form, something that's less traditional, and they're more than likely going to have quality product.
Yeah.
So that's maybe, I mean, I don't want to go on forever about options for where to find songs today, but I just think that would be the very first place I would start, is go somewhere where you know the quality of the recordings are going to be decent, because not many people go to a radio station with, you know, a backyard demo.
Yeah.
It's going to be a little bit better quality than that.
Definitely.
And talk to the presenters and say, in my case, I've had the music myself, but if I was chasing progressive rock music, which my bands play, and I wanted that to be the start of my show, if I was doing a sci-fi show or something on the occult or about progressive rock, you could go to the presenter and say, who is the most active, keen, and imaginative progressive rock band you have in the region? Can I just give me a few names? I'll go check them out, and then approach those bands and just say, look, I'd love to have you as the theme song for my show. So that's just one free way, and that might just be a tip of the day. And I don't know if you've got anything off the top of your head that you can think of for finding music, Jackson.
No, I think that's a great piece of advice, and that's, if I wasn't able to make the music myself and make it in the way that my ego wants it to sound, then that's exactly what I'd do.
And one thing I'm going to say for people that can make music for themselves, that might actually be a trap.
Yeah.
Because you're going to put the same standard on... I don't take my podcasting as serious as I do my music.
Yeah.
I mean, I do emotionally, but I don't as far as it being perfect. And if your podcast is waiting for theme music and you have the option of going out and buying a song from Premium Beat or getting one from a college radio station from a band that's keen, or, no, I'm just going to spend 3 months crafting this perfect piece of music myself and then get it mixed and then get it mastered, and then maybe not be happy with it, that might stop your podcast from happening. So I think you need to check yourself even if you are able to create it.
Yeah.
For me, I just took chunks of songs I'd recorded in the past.
Yeah.
And just took instrumental sections, and that's working really well. And once again, I saw a genuine uptick, even though my downloads are never massive. I saw an uptick and more retained listeners since I put both more of myself into the show, as we talked about previously. I think it was the post-Code-isode.
Yep.
And also when I started putting music I'd composed into the show, because I was able to match the mood of what I wanted the music to be to the show probably better than anybody else could do it for me. So
yeah.
So I just wanted to throw out a show for people to go listen to. If you're wondering about how someone can get music in another creative way, Brian Thompson does a lot of podcasting from Canada, and he's a big music marketing guy, but he actually has featured songs of the week that he gets through a company called Music X-Ray. So that's another option. You might be able to put you wanting music for your podcast out there as an actual opportunity for people and actually have them approach you through a platform like Music X-Ray or even just Facebook or Twitter.
Yeah.
So Brian Thompson podcast, and he features a song across all of his shows, the same song at the start and the end for a week to 2 weeks.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's another creative idea if you're looking for music for your show. So, okay, so that might do for today. I'll just run through the tech for anyone who's still listening who maybe is waiting for the tech section. We're using a Soundcraft EFX 12 desk today because we had a weird buzz in the studio. So we've actually gone almost like a home setup for this particular recording. We're using two Sennheiser MD421s, an M Audio Fast Track Pro interface, which we dug out of a box, and Logic Pro for both the recording and the post on Jackson's Mac. So I guess just to finish up, did you have any good shows you discovered during the week or a good episode, Jackson, that you wanted to talk about?
It's not discovered so much as, I've come and gone with it. I've discovered it and rediscovered it. But it would be the Bring a Plate podcast with Peter and Beck. And I like their podcast.
Bring a Plate?
Bring a Plate podcast.
Cool. I'm going to talk about a show which I discovered only yesterday. This is the middle of May, which may become my favourite podcast ever. It's blowing my mind. I'm loving it so much. It's by a guy called Dean Del Rey, who is a former venue booker / professional heavy metal / rock musician for 30 years, and he is now a professional comedian. His show is called Let There Be Talk, and he's talking to people who I absolutely love, like the guy that started Metal Blade Records I was listening to today, Cedric Bixler from Mars Volta, all of these different guitar players that play for people like Madonna through to bands like Steel Panther and all these crazy bands that, I mean, I'm not always into the bands, but they're such interesting people. And Dean Del Rey's just got the most awesome rock and roll stories.
Yeah.
When he was booking the venues in the Bay Area in America where Metallica and Slayer and all these bands that my older brothers loved and got me into when I was a really little kid. I've grown out of a lot of that now. But it was just such an interesting podcast. So it's Dean Del Rey and Let There Be Talk. So not Let There Be Rock, Let There Be Talk by Dean Del Rey. I'm absolutely loving it, and it's probably my favourite interview show I've ever heard. So there's a big recommendation for me there.
Awesome.
Cool. So what's your Twitter handle, Jackson?
Oz Podcast, OZPODCASCS.
And mine's at Joshua C. List. And if you wanted to, yes, once again, throw any abuse our way. And if you want some more ideas or even some access to some bands that might be offering music, just send me a tweet and I might be able to find you something through a lot of my networks for music for your particular show. Cool. All right. See you later, mate.
See you later.